The fall of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth is a complex historical event, emblematic of the multifaceted interactions between internal weaknesses and external pressures that can lead to the demise of a once powerful state. Established in 1569 through the Union of Lublin, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was initially a formidable political entity in Europe. It encompassed a vast territory stretching from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, and its political system was characterized by a unique form of noble democracy. However, by the end of the 18th century, the Commonwealth had disappeared from the map of Europe, partitioned by its powerful neighbors, Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Understanding the reasons behind its fall requires a nuanced exploration of the internal structural weaknesses, external geopolitical pressures, and the dynamic interplay between these factors. One of the primary internal weaknesses of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was its political system, which, although initially innovative, became increasingly dysfunctional over time. The Commonwealth operated under a system of elective monarchy, where the king was chosen by the nobility, known as the Szlachta. While this system allowed for a significant degree of political freedom compared to the absolute monarchies of its time, it also resulted in chronic political instability. The power of the king was significantly limited by the Sejm, or parliament, which wielded the liberum veto. This principle allowed any member of the Sejm to veto legislation, effectively nullifying the proceedings of the assembly. The liberum veto was initially intended as a safeguard against tyranny, ensuring that no single entity could dominate the political scene. However, it led to legislative paralysis, as the Sejm was frequently disrupted by factions pursuing their own interests or those manipulated by foreign powers. The anarchic nature of this system made coherent governance nearly impossible and left the Commonwealth vulnerable to external manipulation and interference. The liberum veto and the elective monarchy were compounded by the erosion of central authority, which was further exacerbated by the Szlachta's vast privileges. The Polish nobility enjoyed an extraordinary degree of autonomy, which undermined any efforts at centralization. Attempts at reform, such as those advocated by King Stanisław August Poniatowski, were often stymied by conservative elements within the nobility who feared the loss of their traditional privileges. The king himself, despite being an enlightened monarch who sought to modernize the Commonwealth, was heavily reliant on Russian support and faced significant opposition from domestic factions. His inability to enact meaningful reforms reflected the broader structural weaknesses of the Commonwealth, where vested interests and decentralization prevailed over the need for cohesive governance. Economically, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was also in decline, further contributing to its vulnerability. The economy was heavily agrarian, reliant on an outdated feudal system that lagged behind the burgeoning industrial economies of Western Europe. The economic situation was aggravated by hostile actions from neighboring states. Prussia, for example, engaged in economic warfare against the Commonwealth, circulating counterfeit Polish currency to destabilize the economy. Additionally, the Commonwealth's control over its trade routes was severely compromised following the First Partition in 1772, when Prussia annexed Royal Prussia, effectively controlling 80% of Polish trade. The loss of vital territories reduced the economic power of the Commonwealth and further weakened its political position. Externally, the geopolitical interests of Russia, Prussia, and Austria posed existential threats to the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. These powers, each with aspirations of territorial expansion, saw the Commonwealth as a ripe target for annexation. The opportunistic motivations of these states were facilitated by Poland's internal disarray, creating a scenario where external aggression and internal weakness fed into each other. Russia, in particular, exerted significant influence over the Commonwealth, manipulating its political affairs to prevent any reforms that could strengthen the state. The Russian Empire's influence was exemplified by the last king of the Commonwealth, Stanislaw August Poniatowski, who, despite his aspirations for reform, remained under the sway of Catherine the Great. The partitions of Poland in 1772, 1793, and 1795 represented the culmination of these external and internal factors. The first partition in 1772 followed the defeat of the Bar Confederation, a group of Polish nobles opposing Russian influence, which provided Russia, Prussia, and Austria with a pretext for territorial annexation. Each subsequent partition further eroded the Commonwealth's territorial integrity and sovereignty. The second partition in 1793 followed the Commonwealth's attempt to strengthen itself through the May Constitution of 1791, a progressive document aimed at remedying some of the state's structural weaknesses. However, this move alarmed neighboring powers, who saw a strong Commonwealth as a threat to their interests. The partition resulted in further territorial losses, with Russia and Prussia seizing large swathes of land. The third partition in 1795 marked the definitive end of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, erasing it from the map entirely. The 1794 Kościuszko uprising, led by Tadeusz Kościuszko, was a valiant attempt to resist the partitioning powers and restore the Commonwealth's sovereignty, but it was ultimately crushed by the overwhelming military might of Russia and Prussia. The final division saw Russia take control of Vilnius and eastern territories, Prussia annex central Poland, and Austria claim the south, including Krakow. With the abdication of King Stanislaw August Poniatowski, the Commonwealth ceased to exist as a political entity. The fall of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth had profound consequences not only for the region, but for Europe as a whole. It served as a stark illustration of the dangers inherent in political fragmentation and weak central authority. The partitions were widely condemned by contemporary observers as acts of aggression and violations of international law. Figures such as Edmund Burke criticized the actions of the partitioning powers, highlighting the moral and legal implications of their actions. Yet the partitions also served as a cautionary tale, influencing political thought in other nations, including the United States, where the framers of the Constitution sought to avoid similar pitfalls by creating a strong federal government capable of maintaining order and unity. Despite its demise, the legacy of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth endured. The Polish spirit of nationalism and identity persisted through the years of foreign rule, eventually contributing to the re-establishment of an independent Polish state in the aftermath of World War I. The partitions had sown the seeds of resistance and a determination to restore Polish sovereignty, a legacy that would later inspire uprisings and independence movements throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. In conclusion, the fall of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was the result of a complex interplay of internal weaknesses and external aggressions. Its unique political system, while innovative, ultimately proved inadequate in the face of growing internal divisions and external pressures. The aggressive ambitions of neighboring powers, coupled with the Commonwealth's own structural deficiencies, led to its partition and disappearance from the European map. Nevertheless, the spirit of the Commonwealth lived on, manifesting in the resilience and enduring cultural identity of the Polish people. The fall of the Commonwealth remains a poignant chapter in European history, illustrating the delicate balance between governance, sovereignty, and the geopolitics of power. Dziękuję. Remember to like and subscribe, or your internal weaknesses will lead to your partition by your neighbors.